right, welcome back to episode 5 of the podcast. Today is Monday, February 22nd, and as you see, we have a panel of people, not just me and Topher, but that's obvious to see. So I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves because you already know me and Topher. So let's start with whoever, just whenever. George.
Guys, got to introduce yourselves.
Okay, I'm George. What else do you want to know about me?
All right, everyone else say your name. Come on, let's get the rolling.
I'm Blake and I'm uninformed.
I'm Landon and my favorite sport is soccer.
I'm Jacob.
I'm Jay and I watch sports that like practically all of these guys don't watch.
Lacrosse?
No. Sorry, Topher.
You can't say you watch outsider sports and then not pump lacrosse. Get out of here.
My dude over here be watching hockey, Topher.
That's true. I do not watch even the tiniest bit of hockey. My brother does. He's a big hockey guy. All right.
Is lacrosse even on TV? Is there
Yes,
like a
the
channel?
PLL? All right. There's two things about lacrosse on TV. One, the PLL has a tight partnership with NBC, so they have games on NBC regular, NBC SN, although that's shutting down, and then they have a like NBC adjacent streaming package. And then also college lacrosse, over 100 games are on ESPN and ESPN Plus and ACC Network and all those. So there you go. Lacrosse is on TV.
All right, so we're going to move into what we're going to talk about today. We may ask any of them if they want to talk about what they want to talk about regarding these subjects. And, well, Topher, let's start with the NBA.
Yeah, I think we got some stuff here. We got to start with the big news from last night. That's the Timberwolves firing their head coach, Ryan Saunders, son of former Timberwolves coach and executive Flip Saunders, who was super important to that organization. He helped bring in and foster Kevin Garnett back when they were legitimately good in the early 2000s. So they brought in Ryan. I think he was their interim coach last year, and they did pretty well, and they hired him to try and foster the young core, and then went downhill real fast this year. Worst team in the NBA by a fat margin, 7-24. Bottom 5 offense, bottom 5 defense. Towns has been out with COVID for quite a while and other injuries. D'Angelo Russell has a leg injury, I believe. Anthony Edwards has been outside of that one really epic dunk and occasional highlight play every 3 games. He's been terrible outside of that. So I want to open it to the floor. If anyone has any other opinions they want to share about the Timberwolves and how bad they are before we talk about who they're hiring. Take from the Timberwolves. Let's go.
Well, wasn't Ricky Rubio originally a Timberwolf?
Yeah. He started out as a Timberwolf, was kind of okay, then left, and now he's back and he's even worse.
Yeah. So,
All right. So Timberwolves thoughts. They are the worst, but they could be second worst. I think they could beat the Pistons, considering the Pistons have an injury, according to what I'm looking at ESPN right now. Plus, like you said, if Karl Anthony Towns comes back, they can start winning some more games because, he's one of the only good players on that team, if not the only. And I don't know. The Pistons, I think the Pistons are just a worse franchise.
I mean, I guess, but Minnesota's pretty helpless. They've made the playoffs like once in a decade, and that was when they had Jimmy Butler, and then they traded Jimmy Butler like 5 minutes later. So, all right, anyone else want to talk about how bad the Timberwolves are?
Yes, I will comment on the horrible Timberwolves. I think that they just need a clean house. I think that they need a new GM because I actually, the move that I like that the GM made was the D'Angelo Russell move. I do like that move. I think D'Angelo Russell is very underrated because remember, what was it, 2 years ago where he basically single-handedly carried the Nets into the playoffs? I think that was a great move for the Timberwolves, but I think aside from that, the GM's been absolutely terrible and they need to clean house. But I think that they do have a nice young core. I don't think that Edwards is going to be much of a player besides maybe averaging like 12, 13, 14 points a game. But I don't think he's going to be anything special. So maybe trade him, get some draft capital back.
So basically, he's going to be Andrew Wiggins at worse.
Yes, pretty much. This is my assumption of Anthony Edwards.
George, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say, wasn't it a few years ago that like the Timberwolves and the Bucks, people were all jumping on their train and be like, yeah, in a few years they're gonna be, the class of the NBA.
Yeah,
And see what
whoever
happened.
picked
You have the
Bucks-
well-run organization that's Milwaukee. They take that clout and that hype and they go up with it. They keep building. They get a good coach. They get the right veterans to build around, and their star piece becomes a superstar, not just a good player. But Minnesota, Karl-Anthony Towns has not become a top 10, top 5 player in the NBA the way Giannis has. Their other draft picks have been pretty terrible. Andrew Wiggins he got a big contract, but he never really developed, and eventually he's out the door. There are other young players that they've gotten in. None of them have really clicked. They've never built a culture of anything. And they've had a lot of stop-starts with their organization in general. So there's the Tom Thibodeau era. That lasted 2 years. They bring in a new coach, completely different situation. Fire that coach, completely different situation. So they keep hitting the hard restart button like every 3 years. So they're just completely dysfunctional as opposed to Milwaukee, who actually have something going for them.
And in place of Ryan Saunders, they're looking to hire, or they have already hired.
They're trying to get confirmation on it. This is their guy. So unless like the league says no or something, or he says no, like all indications, all reporters are saying that he's their guy.
Chris Finch, correct?
Yeah, Chris
No.
Finch.
Gotcha. So, well, I feel like everyone's had a say in how bad the Minnesota Timberwolves are and what of a terrible organization they are. So we're going to move on to the good side of basketball that everyone loves to watch. People who balled out. This is not to confuse it with the Playmakers segment, which is at the end of the podcast. Players who really, really stood out. Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets. He dropped 50 points, which is his career high, and he is the first player to ever get that many points without going to the free throw line once. And not to mention, he also was 8 of 10 from the three-point line, which is absolutely insane. So shout out to him. Joel Embiid, who also had a career high of 50 points. He did a fantastic job against the Bulls. Against the Bulls. And, he may give LeBron a run for his money for the MVP, which I think, hot take, but it could happen because he has been on fire all season. He has not had a down moment all season. And then one of my personal favorites, Nikola Vucevic for the Orlando Magic, recorded a triple-double, a 30-point, 16 rebound, and 10 assist triple-double against the Golden State Warriors, against Steph Curry, which, if you look at the poll on Instagram, we recorded from the video we recorded the other day, actually won against the Spurs. So I guess that poll did not come in handy after all, because the Magic beat the Warriors. So rip.
You guys have anything you want to say about those star performances? Maybe another guy you saw who really caught your attention. Anything you guys want to add on this here?
Yeah, I wanted to mention Jamal Murray has not really been the same since the bubble. Like during the bubble, he really proved himself as a bright young star in the league with insane performances in the playoffs. And I'd say this 50-point game was like the first glimpse we've had of him since the bubble.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm not like a super diehard NBA fan. So what I get is mostly just like what comes up top page ESPN until I like do dig in and do research on specific teams and stuff. And I have not heard very much about Jamal Murray at all. This was the first like big thing he'd done all year. And it's kind of disappointing, as you say, because him in the playoffs, especially that first series, I think we talked about on another podcast when we were talking about Donovan Mitchell against the Jazz. Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell 1v1 was like one of the best duels in a playoff series we've had in like 20 years. It was so great. And to see Jamal Murray kind of regress a little bit is disappointing, but this is back on that forward trend towards superstardom that he looked dead set on during the playoffs last year. And you Magic stans want to comment on Vooch's triple-double?
Yeah, I will comment on Vooch's triple-double. Vooch's triple-double was amazing, but I think that also the another player who played a massive role in that game was Evan Fournier's, I believe, 25-point first half. I think he ended up only with 27, but I think he had 25 in the first half, and I think that really helped the Magic. They built a pretty decent lead, and then that game was just crazy. There were a bunch of double-digit leads near the end. I think the Magic went up like 17, and then the Warriors went up 13. I think that Fournier played well. I think that Vooch played well. I think that game was a pretty well-rounded team effort. And also, I agree with the Embiid take. I think right now, if I had to pick an MVP, I would pick Embiid because Embiid has not had a down point in his season. He's maintained a high level of like playing, and I think that's what you have to do to win the MVP.
George, Blake, Najee, you guys got anything? All right, what else do we have on our NBA slate here?
Oh, George?
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at the standings here, and the Magic are what, like 2 games back of the 8th seed, but they're also 2 games back of second to last place in the East. I mean, what? I don't know. What do you guys think they should be doing here? Because I mean, they've got a ton of injuries already. I mean, do you push for the playoffs when you're probably just going to get blown out again?
I think you just push for years to come. I think Topher and I have had this conversation before, but as good as Nikola Vucevic is, he is getting old. I think they should maybe clear house, keep the good players. Cole Anthony, who's been a pretty decent addition for them. You got Jonathan Isaac, who can't stay healthy, but I mean, if you can find a way to keep him healthy, then that's a really good addition to the team. You got Aaron Gordon, who sadly was robbed, and the dunk contest. But I mean, you got good players, but you need depth and you need support for those good players in order for them to develop. And I mean, if they use their old all-star to get, something in return, then they could possibly go somewhere in the future.
I get what you're saying with that, but I don't think that's the culture or what the organization that the Orlando Magic is. I don't think they're the kind of team that would tear it down for the promise of a bigger future. I don't think they will ever tank the way the Sixers tanked in the middle of this decade or the last decade. I think the Magic are the kind of franchise who are content when they're between 6th and 12th in the East. If they're competitive for one of the bottom playoff spots, maybe win a couple playoff games, maybe like the highlight of the Magic as an organization I realistically see is that they win a playoff series. I don't think they're the kind of team that's ambitious enough or bold enough to build the way the Sixers built. And they're never going to be the team that can be like the Lakers and just buy big free agents or get big trade chips. So I think they're just going to revel in this level of mediocrity and then hope if they are bad again that they just get lucky in the draft.
Another thing I want to say about the Magic, and again, I'm behind on this season, so correct me if I'm wrong, but since what feels like Oladipo, the Magic haven't had a good rookie, Like, I feel like they've just had meh everything. Like, they're finishing meh, so they're getting, okay rookies. Yeah. I haven't heard of, a standout rookie for the Magic, and except for Oladipo, which was Lord knows how many years ago.
That was 7 years ago or something.
Exactly. All these people, Joel Embiid was one of those, okay, he's going to be a star rookie, and now look at him. And the Magic have just had a bunch of, number 10, 11 picks, it feels like, that haven't summed in a way that they could.
And then even worse than that, the one time I can think of in the past decade where they had a top 5 pick, it was Aaron Gordon, who has become an okay role player. That's pretty much his ceiling. He has shown flashes of all-star caliber play, but that's all it is. It's been flashes. He's not an all-star player. He's not a franchise cornerstone player. And that's probably the closest they've gotten to an all-star, really, except maybe Jonathan Isaac, but he's the kind of guy I see as the 5th player in your starting 5 on a championship team, not a team leading all-star. George.
You said Gordon was only top 5 pick, but Mario Hezonja was the
so
5th pick.
How much better is that, Or Gordon's just
He just moved to
disappointing.
Greece
Hazonia is a
today.
massive bust. Although I have one of those cups that you get from like the games with a big Mario Hazonia on the side. So that's pretty funny.
I actually
Yeah,
have a question about that Mario Hazonia thing.
Yeah.
Do we think that the organization of the Magic messed up Hazonia, or do we think that he never had potential and he was just a total bust?
I mean, that's tough to say. Because he has like a couple of highlight plays or a couple of big games that make you think like that's a top 5 player. I think he has one play. I don't think it was with the Magic. Maybe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. If somebody does know, where he posterized LeBron.
It was in Portland. It was where he played in Portland.
So he has these moments, and he had games, I think, with the Knicks or something. He dropped like 35 against a good team, something crazy like that. So he has these flashes, but I think he's the kind of player who requires a very specific environment to develop in that the Magic weren't functional enough to provide, especially in the middle of the last decade. And I think that's a big reason why he never fully develops. And it's always going to be risky taking European guys. That's all, unless you have a surefire guy like Luka, who wasn't just a prospect in Europe, he was the best player in Europe when he was 17. So every guy below that is a guy you're not going to have that good of scouting on versus the college guys. So it's always going to be a big risk. I respect taking the risk, but if you don't have the right organization around it, it's going to be really hard to make it work.
I see what you're saying. I think what I interpreted from that is that you're leaning more towards the organization just not giving them the right environment. I think that Mario Zona was just always terrible. I think he didn't have the right defense to be able to be a top 5 caliber player. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that ever really developed. He showed some flashes, like a nice dunk and a 35-point game. But aside from that, he's a complete bust. He hasn't done anything. And he's given, 4 teams, Portland, Knicks, Magic, and I believe the Spurs he went to, maybe?
Some other random team.
Yeah, and I don't think he performed well there either. So I don't think that the organization really messed him up. I think it was more that he's just a bust.
George, do you want to add something before we move on?
I just want to add something quickly. I mean, the 5 picks after him were Willie Cauley-Stein, Emmanuel Mudiay, Stanley Johnson, Frank Kaminsky, and Justice Winslow.
Okay, so maybe that was just a bad draft. It's not Orlando's fault.
Yeah.
All right. I want to talk about non-basketball things for a little bit, if that's good with you lot. So I think we're gonna meme. We're gonna turn this into our making fun of fan-controlled football meme section of the video, which I had planned. So I don't know if you follow us on Twitter. I think at the Playmakers, the _Playmakers on Twitter. I tried to watch and live tweet fan-controlled football on Saturday, but after 20 minutes, it was so bad I just gave up because it is rough. So have any of you guys watched or heard about what this is?
I just saw a clip of Johnny Manziel doing something. That's about it. But
that's the same thing I saw. I just see whatever ESPN posts on their Instagram. That's about all I see.
Oh my God, it is worse than you imagine. So picture like Arena League.
Don't you call in?
But worse. So here's the thing. So there's this system on their Twitch interface where you vote for what play to run on offense, and then whichever one has the highest percentage they play.
It's like playing Madden, except no.
But bad instead of good. But
this is why we need NCAA football back. Thank you, EA Sports.
Oh God. Notre Dame's not going to be in it unless the athletes get paid. Did you guys see that?
I did see that. Yep.
Which
I didn't see that.
Honestly, respect to hold out, because there are 2 ways to look at it. It's maybe there's an institutional this is to their benefit, but I do see the respect of not involving your program at all if your players aren't going to get properly compensated for it.
So I never heard this, so I just looked it up.
Okay.
This was founded 4 or 5 years ago.
What was?
Fan-controlled football. It was founded in 2017.
Really?
And it has taken this long for an inaugural season. That's terrible.
Hey, but counterpoint. Sometimes a startup football league that has a much shorter turnaround time does not go as well. If you guys remember, this league right here was started in 2018, the fall of 2018, first season, spring of 2019, and it went so bad that it folded after 7 weeks.
To be fair, it was more relevant in those 7 weeks than like most minor league football, with the exception of maybe the XFL.
Correct. And it was awesome. And I went to every home game. It was the best. George, what were you going to say?
I mean, I was just gonna say the Apollos were robbed, and you know what? That was a fun league.
That was
and
awesome.
They should have continued it. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Like, get the money.
Now, I
Thank
was
you.
bagging it just from a foundational standpoint, but as a football league, the AAF was the best football in the sense that it was the most fun and I liked it the most. And I'm big Apollos guy.
I also think like the AAF was cool just because of the weird rules they put in place to make it more fun. Like just not having kickoffs and not having 2-point, or only you can have to go for one instead of just kicking a field goal. Like, first of all, it's funny that they're just kind of getting rid of the kicking position entirely and you just have a punter. But like
there were field goals still. Elliott Fry made all of his. He was like 12 of 12.
Oh yeah, he was crazy.
And Younghoe Koo was a quick kicker in the AAF as well.
Or I don't know, it's just the things they did to make it more interesting for the fans actually worked, which was kind of unsurprising because I was like, you're getting rid of all the stuff and it's gonna feel weird, but it just didn't.
Yes, George.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, being in late February too. I mean, that was awesome. Like,
Yeah.
a ton of people are gonna watch that.
Here's a question. I want to go off that to the rest of you who haven't added to that. What do you like? Do you guys like spring football as an idea?
Yes. I mean,
I like it, but I think it's destined to fail. I don't see an organization. Sorry, what were you saying, Neft?
the AAF, which was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And there was XFL, which you and I hopped on the St. Louis Battlehawks wagon with Jordan Ta'amu. And I mean, when XFL shut down, it was just kind of like, wow, what are we going to do now? Like, that was so much fun. We enjoyed watching PJ Walker absolutely tear up the entire league. Because there were some talents that, you know, could have been in the NFL, which PJ Walker eventually did get signed by the Carolina Panthers. But then because that's also where you can find talent. So it's just a big showcase for the professional league later in the year. I mean, and it could work for that, but and it's just also so much more fun because it's unusual to see football in the spring season, and it's just something new, which people like to see new things.
George, what did you want to add?
It was didn't that football team quarterback come from the XFL?
Taylor Heinecke. He was the backup to Jordan Ta'amu in St. Louis.
He looked pretty good against the Bucks in the playoffs.
Incredibly competent quarterback.
They signed him on a 2-year deal, like 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got a 2-year, like $8 million contract now with like 4 or like at least 2 of that guaranteed.
Have we ever talked about the story of him on the podcast?
I don't think so.
Where he called up his professor and he was like, "Hey, professor, I need you to postpone my final exams. I'm gonna go play in the NFL and stay off Tom Brady for a sec."
Gonna casually play a playoff game on national television. You know how it be. What else do we want to? Do we have anything else from the rest of you guys? We don't have too much other stuff. What are things from sports you guys have seen? Anyone can take the field here.
Did anyone watch the Champions League or Europa League?
Barcelona are a mess of a team, mess of an organization. Bad. They're also not good. But Serginho Dest is there, so thumbs up. Yeah, George.
Man City running away with the league.
Easily.
Yeah.
They're winning the quadruple. That's it.
They're not going to win the quadruple. They probably will win the domestic treble again. But to win that many competitions in 1 year in a league as deep as that is, or in a country as deep as England is relative to Germany, where Bayern have done that literally last year, it's incredibly difficult. George, yes.
Did you see Hudson Odoi get subbed on and then taken off at Chelsea?
I'm mad at Chelsea. I'm very, very mad at Chelsea because they're ruining our beautiful boy. Why are they doing that to us? Get Christian Pulisic on the field. Get rid of Timo. Who cares about Timo? Whatever. Throw him away. Throw him to the woods. Give me Christian in the starting 11 every single week, right?
Well, to be fair, their coach was the coach at Dortmund, so I assume he's doing something with Pulisic because he made Pulisic. So I think that he's gonna do something with Pulisic. So I don't want to be too harsh on him. Also, I'm an Arsenal fan, and playing Werner is an amazing strategy. I think they should continue to do that. But back to Nigeria, I think that honestly, I think that Man City has a chance to win the quintuple. I think they can win the domestic trouble. I think they can win the Champions League, and I think they can go on and win the FIFA World Cup. Because
everyone can win Club World Cup. Whoever wins the Champions League is the overwhelming favorite to win the Club World Cup 100 times out of 100. What is River Plate gonna beat you? No, they're not gonna beat you.
Let's not forget Corinthians beat Chelsea in like 2013. Let's not.
Yeah, I mean, it happens sometimes, but like that's effectively a preseason tournament for the big European teams. I know it doesn't take place during preseason, but that's the level of energy they give towards it. Plus, I'm not gonna care about the Club World Cup till an MLS team wins CCL. When that day comes, when an MLS team is playing up against Bayern Munich in FIFA World Cup, all right, sign me up. But until then, who cares?
How about that other North London team struggling under Mourinho?
Yeah, you two Arsenal fans want to dunk on Spurs for a little bit?
Yes, go for it.
Oh, gosh.
I would love to. Okay, so I think Jose Mourinho was an amazing hire for Spurs. I would make that hire. And I would not fire him. I would keep him around for another 3 years, see what he can do. You know, teams sometimes make the mistake of firing their manager when they're going terrible. But I think that we should continue to give Jose Mourinho more chances. But honestly, I don't think that is really Mourinho's fault. Who do they have injured? They have Kane out, right? He's their main goal scorer. Is Son out too? I haven't seen Son score or make a headline in a while. So they're just in poor form. I don't think you can really blame Mourinho for that. But it's just difficult when your top goal scorer is injured. It's just hard. But it is fun to watch.
I mean, for what it's worth, your team's also not that good. I just want to point it out, Arsenal are still pretty bad.
Yes, but we don't have some of the players that they have. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll agree that the top end talent at Spurs is probably better than Arsenal at pretty much every position, or not every position, but most of the spots. That's fair.
Like give us a nice Son type winger,
an actual winger who's not bad on Arsenal.
Basically, just clone Bukayo Saka and you're good.
I think Saka's amazing.
Son will probably be at Arsenal. Just wait till he's 33. Oh, wait, he's at Spurs, not Chelsea. So that meme doesn't work quite as well.
Willian might have been the worst signing our club has ever made, and that's including Pepe for 72 million. Willian on a free transfer might be worse than Pepe for 72 million.
Well, because here's the thing: while Pepe's been bad, it made sense at the time because he was coming off a huge season in France, and he's like a top young prospect. Willian was like 32, and pretty mediocre season for Chelsea. And your team is expected to be at the exact same level as Chelsea, getting one of their mediocre players, thinking that's going to take you over the top. That's pretty sad.
The sad thing is we continue to give them chances. Game after game after game, we continue to sub them on. I don't understand what Arteta is thinking.
All right, so here's my question on that, though. Who else do you play on the wing then? Like, real question. You know Arsenal squad depth more than I do. You or George, who else do you play on the wing?
It's hard. You can put a Aubameyang on the wing, and then you have Lacazette. So what I would do is I would have any four in the back you want. You can have, as long as Tierney and Bellerin are on the sides, you can have whichever center backs you want. You can have Holding, Gabriel, Holding, Murray, Gabriel. It doesn't matter that much. Those center backs, I don't care.
All right,
center mids. I think you have to run Partey when he's not injured. He's been amazing. I think the other one you have to run, I know George hates him, but you have to run Xhaka. Xhaka makes the team go. You have to run Xhaka. At the 10, I like Emily Smith-Rowe. I think he's been amazing. I think he's had a few off games recently, but I think that's because Arteta's playing him on the wing. You can't expect a 10 to go play a wing. It doesn't make sense. And then you have Saka and Aubameyang on the wings with Laka up top, and hope that Laka is not terrible and can actually score.
George, do you agree with that?
Yes, but I'm just saying I would put pretty much anybody else on the wing other than Willian. I don't care if it's someone playing out of position like Smith Rowe or even Martinelli. They played him at striker against Benfica.
Why not put you're talking on the wing, just put Ardegaard as an inverted winger.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. I mean, literally anybody. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's I don't care if Xhaka's on the wing.
With his literally zero pace, play him as a winger.
Yes.
Actually, Xhaka was like a left back for a little bit during I forgot which game, but one of our guys got sent off, and Xhaka went to go play left back.
Was that the Wolves game when they had two guys sent off?
That's what it was. It was the Wolves game. You're right. He went to go play left back. He honestly wasn't that bad. He was actually nice at the left back position. Obviously, now we have Tierney back, so he's never playing left back again, or hopefully. But if Tierney gets injured again, Xhaka actually played well in the pinch.
I mean, fair shake. I like Xhaka a lot. I just think he's fun. He has a cool name. He's from a more unique country, and he hits bangers. So, facts.
George, don't you think Xhaka is amazing?
He plays well when he's with Party, but not when he's with Ceballos. It's just
sometimes Ceballos doesn't have the work rate of Party to make up for Xhaka's lack of ability to move.
Yeah, that's spot on.
All right, so Neff, you and I, we can continue whatever else we had to do. I'm gonna let the other three you go, but what else do you guys have to say that you want to say?
The defending Stanley Cup champions actually got blanked by an AHL goaltender.
For those of you who don't follow hockey, that's the Lightning, the Tampa Bay Lightning playing. So how are they doing on the season, Jay? How are they doing this year?
They're doing well. They've had so many games postponed now because apparently COVID and the snowstorm affects the Dallas Stars so much.
Makes sense.
They're like third in the division right now with games in hand, but Nikita Kucherov, Anthony Cirelli, and Steven Stamkos have been big losses throughout the season. But other than that, they're doing just fine.
All right, Jacob, do you have anything else you want to add before you pop off? All right, and Landon, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you three. Thank you again to George and Blake, who had to leave earlier. Thank you all. If we might have you on again, it was a lot of fun.
I just want to thank you guys for supporting us, our friends on here. So I hope you enjoyed that little segment.
I know it was a little chaotic, all those people, but I think it's fun having more people. Obviously, those are guys we know well. Good friends with those guys. We're going to have more guests like that. You know, it's the 5th episode. We had to be special, you know?
Now Topher and I are going to move on to stuff we have written down on our document. We did not talk about the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
Oh, how much we praised them the last episode. And after this week, they went they
still won a couple games.
They've now lost 2 games in the last 23.
Yeah,
which is still fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of funny. We kind of jinxed them. We talked them up so much, and then they lose to the Clippers that week. But they also beat the Clippers that week too.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not really a jinx, but kind of, you know.
We promise we won't praise your favorite team when they're on a hot streak. We promise.
Yeah. We'll just talk about their fortunate happenings.
Yeah. So the Jazz, they still look good though.
They still do.
I mean, even in that loss, Donovan Mitchell dropped 35.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell has been playing quite a game of basketball, but we're just gonna stop talking about that so we don't jinx them. Sorry if you're a Utah Jazz fan.
And then the other thing we talked about last week was the Anthony Davis injury, and we're already seeing how that's affecting the Lakers.
Yeah, the Lakers have been quite not a train wreck, but they are struggling a little without their best defender on the court, and arguably their best player.
Yeah, I mean, I think their offense has also struggled. I mean, you can just see the raw numbers here. They scored under 100 points a couple times last week. And again, it's only like 3 or 4 games post Anthony Davis. So we're not hitting the panic button so far, but it's something to note that so far it's been a struggle.
Montrezl has stepped up.
Mm-hmm.
You got Kuzma being coached by Anthony Davis. He got blood on Anthony Davis's shirt. You saw that clip? But that's also a really good thing to see. An injured player still engaged in coaching the younger players. So very massive respect for Anthony Davis for still putting in the effort, even though he can't really be on the court and helping them. But we just hope that Anthony Davis gets back on the court, because every time he steps on, it's just fun for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he makes them a lot better. He makes LeBron better. He makes their defense better. Having that second all-world caliber player, it just changes everything. Just having him in the organization still, as you say, on the bench, involved with the team, that is always a big help. Mm-hmm. But it'll be interesting to know if this trend continues and they still struggle without him, how far do they slip in the West? And if they can't get him back to the playoffs, can LeBron single-handedly basically still lead that team?
I don't think they'll slip far because they have LeBron.
Yeah.
You can rest Anthony Davis for the rest of the regular season and they would be fine.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree with that.
Anthony Davis doesn't even have to step foot on the court until the postseason. Mm-hmm. And the Lakers would still be tearing up the court left and right.
Yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen. It's probably they'll have some off nights, not having a second player. But LeBron is so good, and they've built a pretty solid roster the past 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. That they're probably still gonna be a top 3, top 4 seed in the West at worst.
And then we haven't talked about the Rockets recently, but him and DeMarcus Cousins and the Rockets parted ways just recently. Reasons unknown, correct?
Yeah, I don't think we know that much about it. And it was weird because I think just like the week before, they had guaranteed his contract.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they cut him right after that. It just feels weird to me. It wasn't like it was a big contract either.
It wasn't a big contract, but then you'd think that the chemistry he has with that team, mm-hmm. because he was working well with Christian Wood, John Wall, obviously. John Wall and him go way back.
Weren't they? I think they were college teammates at Kentucky.
Yes.
Back in like 2009.
With the addition of Victor Oladipo, I mean, they had a lot of, with John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, you have 2 win-now players. But Victor Oladipo, I mean, I feel like that addition kind of, caused a little bit of roughness in Houston. Because he came in, dominated.
I mean, that whole situation is going to cause some roughness in Houston, having to trade James Harden, and not just trading James Harden, but the circumstances by which he was traded. That was a very ugly situation.
Yeah, it was just. Don't they have a new coach as well?
Yeah, they have they have a new coach this season, so they had to integrate that. And then early in the season, James Harden's wanting out and gets traded. Bring in Oladipo, try and make that gel. So there's just a lot going on in Houston. So
yeah, they just need to take some time if they want.
This is probably going to be an off year for them, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're okay next year. What?
Right? D'Antoni?
They fired him last year. Or I don't know if they fired him, but they let him walk.
It was a mutual of parting ways.
Yeah. It wasn't firing, but they let him walk.
He wanted out because he hated the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And he hated the fact that they would get to the playoffs and lose in the same spot every year.
Yeah. Houston, I think,
especially the whole Russell Westbrook and James Harden on the same team, which was kind of not good.
Yeah. Here's my final take on it here, is that the James Harden Houston Rockets era, it came and it went. They tried it a few different ways. They had James Harden and Dwight Howard. They had James Harden pretty much by himself. Recently retooling James Harden, Russell Westbrook. They tried it. They had a nice decade of being good, not great.
James
But-
Harden with Chris Paul, in my opinion, was better than
Oh,
James
there you
Harden.
go. I forgot about that one. How did I lose that? But James Harden, Chris Paul, like they did things. They had some nice success. They were a good playoff team, made some conference finals, but it's over and done. This is the transition year, and next year is going to be a hard reset, fresh start for the Houston Rockets as an organization.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to do your lacrosse segment now and have the audience enjoy? It's lacrosse.
Yeah, I do have some lacrosse I want to talk about. I'm going to keep it pretty short here, not as lengthy as last week, which I more talk about. But so college lacrosse is really getting underway. Started, I think the first men's lacrosse game was a few weeks ago, but now everything's starting to come together now. The Big East is starting in earnest. Georgetown and Villanova played. The Big Ten, that was the big one that started this week. And so the narrative in this season really is the ACC is like head and shoulders above everybody else, really. And I understand why, because Duke have all the fancy recruits. They have all the returning stars. They have Michael Sowers, who's probably the best player in college lacrosse. Certainly, if you look at his career, then UNC, what they're doing with Chris Gray, Syracuse, what they were doing before last year got canceled. All this great stuff about the ACC. But I think that narrative has hidden how good the rest of the country is. I think we're starting to see that. So the big thing, obviously, is the Army beat Syracuse in the Dome, and people giving excuses for the Qs, whatever. The point, what I see with that is that Army is a better team than you think they are. And the Patriot League in general is a better league than we think it is. And the ACC maybe isn't as untouchable as it once seemed. I think it's important to give the respect to these non-ACC programs like an Army. Maybe they make a run to the Final Four weekend. And then I think the other big team, they had a lot of hype. And I think they're top 5 inside the lacrosse team. Maryland, what they did, they destroyed Michigan like 20-8 this past weekend. So obviously the attention is going to be drawn to Duke and to UNC and to Virginia, who I've forgotten to even talk about, and Syracuse and Notre Dame to a lesser extent. So the AC, they're going to get their fair shake. But I think we need to really respect what the Patriot League and Army is doing, what the Big Ten schools are doing, and not forget about these teams that had less hype coming into the season, because I think they are just as good as their ACC counterparts. All right, Neff, that's all I had on lacrosse. It was a pretty short one. Anything else we want to talk about here?
Now we're gonna move into NFL a little bit, just because. I think all head coaching positions are, filled in.
Yeah.
So we've got. I'm just gonna list them off. We have them ranked. So this is the rankings that we have for them. We've got Robert Saleh for the New York Jets. Congratulations to him. First Muslim coach in the history of the NFL. We got former Florida Gator head coach and former Ohio State Buckeye head coach Urban Meyer. We'll go into depth with these after I'm finished with the rankings. They got Brandon Staley for the Los Angeles Chargers, replacing Anthony Lynn. Arthur Smith from in Atlanta, who used to be Titans offensive coordinator. We got Dan Campbell. Oh, well, wasn't Dan Campbell? No, that was Dan Quinn. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Campbell in Detroit after the parting of ways with Matt Patricia. We got Nick Sirianni, former Colts offensive coordinator in Philadelphia, and Dave Culley in Houston.
Now, that ranking was mostly done by me. I don't know, Neff, did you disagree with any of those?
Yeah, no, I agreed with them, other than Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer kind of, I would put him around 5-ish.
Yeah, I mean,
his thing is college.
Yeah.
His thing is 100% college, because everyone wanted to play for him in Florida. Like, he had Tim Tebow, he had Aaron Hernandez, he had Percy Harvin, Trey Burton, the Pouncey brothers.
A lot of talent came through Florida and Urban Meyer State, plus Ohio State, same thing.
So yeah, go. I mean, the one that I do think is kind of underrated is Nick Sirianni. Not because he was Colts offensive coordinator, but just because I feel like he may try to mirror what Frank Reich does in his coaching style,
Mm-hmm.
because they kind of went for the same kind of playing style, because it's run first then pass kind of offense. But you can't do that really with Philadelphia,
At least not right now.
at least not right now. All Nick Sirianni had to do was go to a team that was not in the process of a hard reset. But I guess he couldn't help it. He just wanted the head coaching job.
The real big problem with is that it's still the Andy Reid coaching tree. They're still doing the same thing, because Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator in Philly under Doug Peterson. Nick Sirianni is the offensive coordinator under Frank Reich. So it's still the Doug Peterson, Andy Reid tree. And I know they've been frustrated with that, and they keep going back to the same well. So they are hitting hard restart, but they're also not. They're doing the same thing in a different form. And that's something that frustrates me.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say about these coaches?
I just want to say that I think the Jets did a good thing in hiring the Niners defensive coordinator, because Todd Bowles, it kind of reminds me of Todd Bowles, because they're both defensive coordinators and they're both good defensive coordinators, is the thing. So, I mean, it may happen again what happened to Todd Bowles, which he did good his first year and his second year, and then I think his third year was the year that it was.
Yeah, because it never got to a level of good that was consistent. It petered out.
And I mean, I guess it can be a good thing for them. Hopefully they can get the offense like jump started.
Yeah. So yeah.
Because they've lost pretty much all their weapons. So I hope he can turn that team around, because I think that was an interesting hire for them. So
yeah.
Also, it's an awesome thing to be, the very first Muslim head coach.
Yeah, it is a cool thing. And he's a coach who's had a lot of praise the last 3 years. A lot of cool NFL mic'd up stuff, because he's a fun man motivator. A guy, every player he's had in San Francisco the past couple of years loves him. He was in talks for other head coaching jobs the past couple seasons. I know the Niners defense took a step back this year, but they also had a lot of personnel changes, and this was a weird year. So I don't really hold that much against him.
I got this recent thing, Cam Newton.
Oh, geez.
With the kid at the camp.
Ugh.
Like, come on, get out of here.
All right, so there's 2 points to this, right? And I'll let you get your take as well. I don't want. I'm sorry for kind of taking over, but I do want to say this. One, why you gotta disrespect Cam Newton? The guy he won a Heisman Trophy and an NFL MVP, which is ridiculous. National champion, 15-1 record in the pros 1 year. He's been to a Super Bowl. Great player, deserves respect from the young kids. They can learn a lot from him. 2, the way Cam handled it. Did you see Cam's video of it? Of like the after him talking smack, the way he talked to the kid. And he didn't like cuss out the kid or like tell him to get out or anything. Like he tried to ration with it and handled it so coolly and calmly. Cam, you're an inspiration, man. All right, you take your take on what's your spin on this?
Yeah, no, I'm just like I'm in awe, because like you said, he won a Heisman, won a national championship, he won an NFL MVP. He was number 1 in the draft.
Yep, number 1 draft pick.
And he lived up to it.
100%. He was the Panthers franchise quarterback for almost a decade.
So, I mean, and the way, like you said, it's pretty much what you just said. Like the way he handled it, it was just so calm and cool. And because, he didn't have to treat the kid that way, because the kid blatantly disrespected him. Props to him for not being heated or angry. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was heated and angry, but, he didn't have to. He could have just sent the kid home. And earlier today, the kid actually sent him an email or a letter apologizing to him. So
that's a good step. It's, hopefully this incident is a kind of a one-off goof thing. And hopefully that's not the actual mindset of us youngins, right? Because yikes.
Yeah. And hopefully he can get a job.
Cam
I
Newton
think-
deserves to be in the NFL. Maybe not as a starter, but he 100% deserves to be in it. The NFL is a better place with Cam Newton in it. Also speaking of Panthers quarterbacks, I saw this report on a few different things on the internet saying the Panthers are trying to get their assets in line to make a big move for Deshaun Watson. Do you think that could happen?
I wanted to use Christian McCaffrey for that.
Yeah, so they're
And I'm
talking
like, why
big
would-
trade assets, big contract, or big roster shuffling.
I mean, I understand why you would trade Christian McCaffrey for Deshaun Watson because Deshaun Watson's a top 5 quarterback in the league. But like,
Yeah, so
you're
I'll
gonna
spin
do
this two ways.
McCaffrey like that?
Yeah, I'll take this two ways here. Here's my question for you: would you take, if you're the Texans, 2 first-round picks from the Panthers, including the 6th overall pick this year,
Mhm.
and whatever their first-round pick is next year, a second, a future 4th, maybe 2 future 4th, something like that, a couple of lower round picks, and Christian McCaffrey for Deshaun Watson?
Yes. 6th, you could get a good quarterback
Mhm.
in the draft this year.
100%.
Unfortunately, when he gets there, he's just gonna. But I mean, you could have. It's just because there's nothing in Houston. There's nothing in Houston. Like J.J. Watt is gone. Deshaun Watson wants to get out. No one wants to be there.
Yeah. They're kind of a mess, but yeah, actually, you know what? There is no but. There's no promising signs in Houston. I don't like their head coach hire. Maybe he's good because I just don't know very much about him. He was the Ravens passing game coordinator, which one, the Ravens have the worst passing game in the NFL, so I don't understand that. And
Yeah.
2, he's just a guy I've never heard of, so maybe he's good, maybe he's not. I don't know. But that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in me. Their ownership, I know, is a train wreck. They're just bad dudes. Their roster's a mess. They have no draft capital. I don't know very much about their GM. There's nothing in Houston that really excites me as the Texans. So sorry, Texans fans, Houston sports fans. Texas is going through a lot, man. Like, goddamn,
Houston going through a lot.
bro. They really do.
I know we talked about Carson Wentz last week. Update: Michael Pittman Jr. will not be giving his number to Carson Wentz. It would be cool to see. Tell us what down in the comments below or on our social media. Let us know what number you'd like to see Carson Wentz repping.
The answer is 10.
I thought of 10 and 2 and 4. Now that Vinny is gone.
4 is kind of an epic quarterback number, honestly.
Yeah. 'cause
Derek
you
Carr's
got
the only good number 4 I can think of, but it looks pretty cold.
You got Derek Carr and Deshaun Watson.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Deshaun Watson too. 4 is a pretty cold quarterback number.
And also, I wanted to talk about the great example that he showed coming into Indy. He FaceTimed Kenny Moore, a DB for the Colts. He sent a text to Julian Blackmon, who was a rookie this year. But that just really like it hit me just like, hey, that's some pretty good leadership right there. That's showing some nice flashes of good leadership that has yet to come out in Carson Wentz, and might be a factor in the future. So
Yeah, obviously as the franchise quarterback, it's really important to have that good bond with your whole team and be a leader for the franchise, even if you're just coming in first year. So those kind of early steps, those kind of good guy quarterback moves, always a plus when you see that with your guy.
And it looks like he's working on, making connections and meeting new people and trying to, secure his spot. Because I know him and Jacoby Brissett will be, battling it out a little.
Yeah. Hey, let's not put this is. I know a lot of people just kind of assuming Carson Wentz is going to take over, but there's going to be a quarterback battle in the offseason between Carson Wentz, who they just traded for. Jacob Eason was a draft pick last year. He's going to get an opportunity in training camp. And Jacoby Brissett, still there, good backup. He's going to get a chance to earn the spot. So it's not like Carson Wentz is going to be handed to it. He has to actually show a reason to be the starting quarterback. I think he will in the end, but I like the fact that he's going to have to earn it.
That with Frank right there, and like the quarterback coach from who joined him from Philly. I think that'll be a good environment for him.
Yeah, 100%.
Because the fans in Indy were welcoming of him too. So,
Yeah, I don't think I saw much in the way of negative reaction to him.
except for Pat McAfee.
I think that's all we have for NFL stuff.
Yeah, that's it. I think we're ready to go on to our playmakers.
You went first last week, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, we're not going to list them first. I want to say who won last week. Let's find out. Let me go to our Twitter here.
It was a three-way tie.
It was. We didn't have very many votes. I didn't plug it very well on Instagram this time, so I'll take the L for that. Three-way tie between Ilkay, Izzy Skane, and De'Aaron Fox. Sorry, Oklahoma softball, the only one without a vote. But so yeah, make sure you vote for that each week. It's a fun little poll, shouting out the best in sports.
We'll try and put it on Instagram too.
All right. Sorry for that sidetrack. Just trying to get the logistics of it out. All right, I'm going to list my playmakers of the week. So again, big lacrosse guy. That's my thing. That's my expertise. I want to shout out two guys who played very well this past weekend. So I talked about Army beating Syracuse. That was the big game of the weekend. Ranked Army going into the Dome, Syracuse's first game of the season, and they win. Dominate in the second half, really. They completely bodied Syracuse, to be completely honest with you. And then the big star for them was Brendan Nickturn, the attackman. He dropped 4 goals, 3 assists. He was the catalyst for their offense. They had other guys who played well, of course, but I thought he was the big catalyst for that big signature win for Army. So Brendan Nickturn is my first playmaker of the week. And then also another lacrosse guy. This guy didn't have the biggest stats, but the way he played, it caught a lot of attention from guys on Lax Twitter, and I feel the same way. Ryan Tarafenko of Ohio State all over the field, a D-midi who's playing face-off, D-midi, O-midi. Grabbed a goal, 6 GBs, 5 and 9 from the face-off stripe, despite not being a Fogo. He was always on the field, always running up and down. This is their first game of the season, and he's showing that ridiculous Zach Courier end of the field mentality. So, yeah, Ryan Tarafenko, he is my other playmaker of the week. Neff, go ahead.
I'm not a lacrosse aficionado, so you won't get boring players from me. Topher. We talked about this man earlier, Joel Embiid, very deserving. Career high 50-point game. Has been playing his ass off. So, and then my second one is Kylian Mbappe from Paris. So, because he got that hat trick versus
Barcelona in the Champions League.
So that was quite a performance from him. So he got my second vote. So yeah, that's it. That's all we have. So we got Topher's 2 lacrosse players.
Brendan Nickturn and Ryan Tarafenko.
And then Joel Embiid and Kylian Mbappe.
All right, make sure you vote for that. Neff will have something on Instagram on Thursday. Twitter, it'll be up on Twitter pretty much the same day, pretty much the same time as it's released. I think I figured this out. The links are there if you're watching on video. It's at the _ playmakers on Twitter, at the _ playmakers _ podcast on Instagram. Yeah. Any other housekeeping stuff you want to cover, Neff?
No, just keep watching. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. We did it. Episode 5. We crossed the big threshold.
We have some cool ideas coming.
If you haven't watched it yet, we did the wheel picking Neff's second favorite team the other day. That was a fun one.
We're gonna have Topher's favorite NFL team next because
we're gonna do that. We're gonna figure out. We're gonna wheel decide my favorite NFL team. We're probably gonna do that a couple days before the draft.
Don't worry, we'll take the Bucks and the Chiefs off.
Yeah. But so we're gonna do that close around to the draft. So this the Playmakers podcast is gonna start growing here. So I hope you guys stay along with us. Sorry about today's episode. I know it was a little chaotic, a little clumsy, not our most focused. I think it'll probably be our longest episode, depending on how much I end up cutting down in post. But so thank you guys for sticking around with us today. Neff, do you have anything else you want to add before we close it out?
No, you can go ahead and close it out.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching wherever you follow us. Follow us on social. We appreciate all the support. It's so much fun seeing you guys follow us along. We're having a lot of fun with it. First 5 episodes of many. Love what we're doing here. Stay tuned for more content coming your way. And thank you, everybody.